Thanks to a system of satellites, we can control our weather.
Entire city block collapsed in Hong Kong late last night.
First hailstorm in history. You can see the damage and devastation to buildings and vehicles wrecked by the storm.
This wasn't a malfunction.
Someone intentionally did this.
Are you going back up to space?
Think of it like I'm taking a vacation.
To a place 250 miles straight up and negative 450 degrees? Some holiday.
We got a point.
Top secret CIA Weather Control Division, Dick speaking. I mean pizza store! Oh, it's you, Stan. What kind of favor?
Seeing these lines in the sky, some believe these are concerning chemtrails, and others just call it a conspiracy theory.
Either way, Florida lawmakers took a big step toward what they call banning weather manipulation.
And what some describe as a controversial bill aimed at banning so-called chemtrails has cleared a South Carolina Senate subcommittee. Supporters say they want to prevent unauthorized weather modification.
Trying to predict these capricious changes in weather, we sometimes resort to rather questionable weather forecasting devices, such as an almanac, a crystal ball, a gouty leg, and the law of average. It's the master control room. Electronic maps and view screens display up-to-the-minute pictures of the weather around the Earth. Every hour, reports are automatically received from all points at sea, on land, and in the air. 22,000 miles out in space, 3 robot satellites train their sensitive television eyes on all parts of the Earth. Here in the computing room, electronic machines digest the constant flood of information received from all stations. Forecasts for every sector of the globe are made months in advance. Prediction charts have indicated that a powerful hurricane will begin forming today in the Atlantic Ocean.
This is the shuttle's fuel tank. It may only be 130 miles to space, but to cover that distance, the engines will use 500,000 gallons of fuel, and that works out at 2 feet to the gallon. Despite the cost, however, NASA does need to test these engines once in a while. So they built this place in the wetlands of Mississippi. The first thing they installed was a huge loudspeaker, through which they played white noise to simulate the sound of a rocket. They then sent a number of trucks in different directions out into the wilderness, and the drivers were ordered to stop when the noise levels became acceptable. This gave them an imaginary boundary line, and anyone living on the inside of it was offered a simple choice. Stay, and you'll never hear another television program as long as you live. Or take the NASA shilling and get out. No one stayed, and NASA ended up with exactly what it wanted. 125,000 acres of nothing. They even had to move 5 cemeteries, because the noise they were planning on making would wake the dead. Don't worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain.
I told you!
It's raining! That's unbelievable! Oh, NASA's playing God.
Which takes us deep into the Arabian Desert, where a wealthy government attempts to conjure clouds out of nothing. Hanale Korhonen, a Finnish scientist, is tasked by the UAE to make it rain in the desert on demand. Ethical alarms are going off everywhere. And it's not the first time this has happened. The US has tried several times to weaponize the weather.
We're here in Santa Barbara County, home to one of the longest running cloud seeding operations in the country. We've got some ground-based cloud seeding equipment right here, and we're gonna get to hear all about how it works and see it in action. Cloud seeding is the most common type of weather modification, and it has many different techniques and applications. Today, it's mostly used to increase rain and snowfall, reduce the size of hail, and reduce fog at airports.
Traditionally, cloud seeding has been done from the air. So airplanes have had racks on them where these same flares are positioned on the airplane, and the airplane flies into the storm. So in order to reduce the cost to the client and reduce our carbon footprint, we've been able to station these on the ground.
Behind a barbed wire fence designed to keep away curious cattle.
So these are referred to as AHOGs. That stands for Automated High Output Ground Seeding Systems. We've got three primary components of our equipment here. The first is the control module that you see behind me. Then we have our actual cloud seeding flares. The cameras for security. It also helps us observe weather conditions in real time and make sure that all of the equipment is operating correctly during a storm. Inside these canisters are the flares with the seeding agents. The canisters are used as spark arresters, so they prevent sparks from reaching the ground. So if we pull off the spark arrestor, you can see the flare inside. The ignition of the flares are controlled from the control module that's behind us. So the white triangle there is a cell service modem, and then the solar panel keeps us powered. Inside we have a battery and then a control board. So the control board interacts with the software. We're linked or synced with the software in Utah currently, and that allows us to fire or ignite any of the flares from that remote location. The primary seeding agent in this is silver iodide. Silver iodide is a simple compound. It's polar in nature like water, so there's chemical properties that help attract water molecules to silver iodide. It's also structured molecularly similar to ice. So it helps generate or helps spawn the generation of ice buildup, and then that becomes a hailstone or a snowflake that falls here primarily as rain. So one flare like this has billions and billions of potential sites for that water to congregate around. We'll launch them in sequences. We watch the radar to see when bands of the highest concentration of liquid water are passing above us in the clouds, and we try to target those high concentration pockets in the storm systems.
But what about other potential adverse effects? Could cloud seeding affect communities outside the targeted areas?
Sometimes there is a concern about robbing Peter to pay Paul. So are we benefiting California at the expense of Nevada?
And public health. With no federal guidelines in place, Florida must take responsibility for its own airspace.
Bloomfield, Michigan, 1942. As World War II rages across several continents, acclaimed architect and eventual designer of the St. Louis Arch, Eero Saarinen, is secretly enlisted by the United States military to work for a new clandestine organization. Its name? The OSS, Office of Strategic Services, or as it is known today, the CIA. While at the OSS, Saarinen designed buildings and weapon systems, many of which were never completed or built. Is it possible he later used these secret plans to engineer the St. Louis Arch?
Controlling the weather is the ultimate superweapon. It's even more powerful than the atomic bomb. So if Eero Saarinen was involved in analyzing and studying the possibility of weather modification, and you put all those factors together, and I think you have a guy that basically conducted a big, giant weather modification experiment.
Weather as a weapon? There are some who think the idea is not as preposterous as it seems, especially when considering that even today, Many world governments are pouring millions of dollars into research designed to manipulate weather.
Pretty much every conspiracy theory has been proven to be true, and now we have direct CIA documents that show that the government is controlling the weather. Okay, here we go. Cloud seeding is used around the world, not just in Dubai, but how countries including US, China, and Switzerland and Australia have implemented weather modification and why it is controversial. It's controversial because, of course, if you can control the weather, or if you desire to control the weather, you could also destroy the weather and you could ruin life on Earth. How cloud seeding works. Weather stations monitor the atmosphere for clouds. Planes equipped with specialized flares are launched. Salt is released into the clouds. Supercooled water condenses around the salt, and the water droplets become heavy enough to fall as rain, and it increases rainfall about 25% per year. Yay, we can control the weather now. I mean, these are like obviously extremely real things. You've seen this. I mean, I've seen this at the airport. Like, they do this. They just banned it in Florida. What could possibly go wrong, right? Yeah, I mean, you could imagine. Why is suddenly these Middle Eastern countries flooding when they're in the middle of the desert? Anyway, CIA accused of poisoning the sky with toxins as files expose secret weather control agenda. If it's a CIA report about poisoning the skies, and here it is, by the way, on the CIA's own website, then is it a conspiracy? Of course not.
I abused my CIA powers to make that superstorm.
You made this storm? Lives were destroyed.
I'm terrified of these people. They can control the weather.
Stuff you really want to know about. All right, let's take a look at Florida, and already it's looking like a disco party is going on. A lot of different radar activity going on. We got spikes here going all the way into the Gulf, heavy lines up in this area, and then of course we have the one we saw with Hurricane Helene right here going off again. Now of course remember, these are just theories that we're talking about here, entertainment purposes only, because no way is weather modification real, right everybody? Anyway, take a look down here near southern Florida. We got some right angle clouds taking place. A weird situation here ahead of the hurricane. And I want you to think about this because ahead of Hurricane Helene, we had a very significant low pressure system up by North Carolina already sitting there that then interacted with actual Hurricane Helene, causing the record-breaking flooding. Now just look at this one more time. Take a look at what's going on up here, the disco party, and then look at these clouds down here, making unnatural formations, right angles. We don't see right angles in nature. So a lot of the rain and moisture taking place in Florida is almost a precursor to the landfall of the hurricane. This video you're looking at right now went super viral over the last few days. We have over 3 million views on this clip here, where we are talking about these weird anomalies that were taking place right before landfall of Hurricane Helene. There's a lot of controversy about what's going on here, but these things pointed directly to where we saw landfall. Not only that, but we saw some weird scalar looking beams in there, a lot of weird stuff that we were breaking down.
In 1993, the FAA started warning pilots to stay away from a certain section of airspace over Alaska. The U.S. government was experimenting with a new breed of high-altitude electronic technology that was significantly altering the Alaskan airspace. The experiments continue to this day, and critics are warning that this project could have global effects that will destroy our planet. In Alaska, the rugged, pristine wilderness is timeless, most of it remaining just as it has for thousands of years. In the midst of all this natural beauty, just outside the small town of Gakona, stands an enormous and seemingly harmless antenna farm. It is a $100 million Air Force project known as HARP, and critics of the soon-to-be completed facility charge it just may turn out to be the ultimate doomsday machine.
It's got all the marks of Dr. Strangelove on it.
HARP is an acronym for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. According to program manager John Hesher, HARP is a research facility designed to study the ionosphere.
All the military have communications, surveillance, navigation systems whose paths either traverse the ionosphere or reflect from it. And so we need to be very careful about what we know about it and how we study it. What we're interested in is what is the effect of a large input of energy on the ionosphere.
The ionosphere is the outermost layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It is part of an electromagnetic field that keeps out harmful solar and cosmic radiation. One visible effect of the sun's rays hitting the ionosphere is the aurora borealis, known as the northern lights. The ionosphere also plays a vital role in worldwide radio communication.
The first transmission of radio waves across the ocean were quite a surprise when it was first done. People thought there'd be no chance to transmit the signals across the ocean by wireless. And in fact, what the ionosphere does is act like a mirror. And so you transmit a signal and it bounces off the ionosphere and then it bounces off the Earth.
When HARP is fully operational, it will transmit extremely powerful blasts of high-frequency radio waves directly up into the atmosphere, superheating the electrons that make up the ionosphere. This will cause them to disperse, effectively punching a hole in the ionosphere. The Air Force says that manipulating the ionosphere and studying the effect will allow them to improve the efficiency of communications, navigation, and surveillance systems. But researchers outside the military see HARP as a high-tech weapon with global implications.
What's up, Skywatchers? What is up indeed? Weather modification by artificial satellites. A satellite weather modification system uses Earth satellites to harness solar energy to modify thermodynamics and composition of Earth's atmosphere. These weather modification satellites have 3 subsystems. The first subsystem includes a network of Earth satellites called satellite engines, or in this article we'll call them SEs, used to reflect solar energy and/or transform solar energy into other forms of energy beams discharged at specific locations. The media at these locations and the medias through which the energy beams pass absorb these energies and change them into heat. The second subsystem includes a large network of remote sensing devices. These sensors are used to measure local media compositions, dynamic parameters, and thermodynamic properties. Sensor measurements are fed back to the third subsystem, which includes a network of ground control stations. These ground control stations provide energy beam guidance by estimating each beam's characteristics and its aim point trajectory. As integration of these 3 subsystems establishes a sensor feedback, energy beam guidance, and control loop. These weather modification applications include alteration of precipitation, reclaiming of wasteland, reducing bad weather, and improving environment. Yeah, I think we've seen quite the opposite of all that happen with these.
There's a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things.
Mel Gibson on Fox News Primetime after losing his home in the California fires.
And then in the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose? Which, it's an insane thing to think. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be, you know? I don't know. Do they want the state empty? I don't know.
Conspiracy theories spreading like wildfire.
This is an obvious land grab. They get them out of their homes this way, and then they can build whatever they want to build.
And you, my fabulous cyber friends, are looking at the famed rubber band model of wonderment. Right here we have the 3. This yellow line would be the 6. And this would be the 9. And this would be our special guest, the 7. 6-7, everyone. It's a concave Earth model. And these lines represent the paths of heavenly bodies, which are tracked by those fucking assholes who fucking rule our world that shouldn't rule our world. And they're biblical. The Mayans knew about them. Lots of different cultures. As a matter of fact, this is the same model which is seen in the World Cup trophy. Go look at it. Now, the reason why this is a 3, back to Tesla, who said, if you want to understand the universe, think of 3, 6, 9. Well, the maiden, the 3, will return to your area every 3 months. The 6 every 6 months, and the 9 every 9 months. The 9, or the star, moves 0.66 degrees. And this focal point moves this way 13 degrees a year. And can fluctuate as high as here and down here. Capricorn and Cancer.
Saturday, is she crazy? That's when we spray nitrous in the ant farm and watch them go nuts. Yeah, here's a taste.
Stupid ants. There is one teaching that is very much forgotten, or it is probably ignored in many cases. Tohanatazad is about your feelings. In other words, don't be easily offended in your life. Hachon is what they say it. It will ruin you. Being sensitive to things that might be offensive to you is something that will harm your enjoyment of life. And so there are many dangers that in the traditional teaching about Tohanatazad. You cannot learn if you are listening to something being told or being taught, and somehow you don't agree with it, and you're going to be offended by what you don't agree with. And in that situation, then you are not going to learn what is the part of the things that are being shared with you, because it might be something that is the first step to understanding greater things.
Question on in an interview with the Los Angeles Times on April 21st, you said that you told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest. Would you explain what you were trying to say?
Well, what I was trying to say is exactly what I said. There is weather control techniques. We have a complete package on that, which I did not bring, but I certainly will see to it that it is brought in for the record. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only does it exist, but that we even utilize it as far back as the Vietnam War. You might want to touch base with Senator Pell.
I just want to repeat before I turn to
so yes, but we do have all that information.
You're saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans.
Worldwide.
Millions of Americans, and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
Will you destroy this
Later. I like to play with things a while before annihilation.
And they said that this will happen. And many people will not be able to recognize that these are the doings of the evil one. And the evil one works through what is called witchcraft, and all these different types of things that attack the things of goodness. But among the Dineh, anything that is thought of to be witchcraft is not good. It is never good. There have been people that we have encountered in the past history of our Dineh where people had great evil powers. One such group of people, of course, is the Na'asaza, and they did all kinds of things to their fellow being and enslaved them and made human sacrifices and other things.
You know the kind of guy who does nothing but bad things and then wonders why his life sucks? Well, that was me. Every time something good happened to me, something bad was always waiting around the corner. Karma. That's when I realized I had to change. So I made a list of everything bad I've ever done, and one by one I'm going to make up for all my mistakes. I'm just trying to be a better person. My name is Earl.
Just tell you a bit about the devil first, so that you've got a clear picture in your mind of what we're praying against. First of all, the Bible does not paint him as a horned creature with a forked tail. That's the sort of thing that makes us laugh at him, take him less than seriously. See, the Bible says he's a real person. The Bible never calls the devil it, always he. Next, the Bible says that he has a heart and a mind and a will, and if a heart and a mind and a will don't make a personality, I don't know what does. It talks about the devil's feelings, talks about his thoughts, and it talks about his motives. And that means to me a person. So the devil is not just a kind of vague word to sum up all the forces of evil in the world. No, he is a person in his own right. And if there were no human beings at all, Satan would still exist. Now, Jesus himself took Satan desperately seriously. He never made a joke about him. He never laughed at him. He never caricatured him. Here are some of the titles that Jesus gave Satan. He said he is the prince of this world. When Satan offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world, Jesus did not say they are not yours to give, because he knew perfectly well they were Satan's to give. And it is a horrible thought, if you really realize it, that the world in which we live is ruled over by Satan. He is the prince of this world. But let's take it a step further. Do you know that another title Jesus gave to Satan? He said he's not only the ruler or prince of this world, he is the God of this world. The only other person beside his heavenly Father to whom Jesus ever applied the word God was Satan. He said, my heavenly Father is God of everything, but of this world Satan is God, which means very simply not only that Satan controls this world and is able to manipulate science and education and politics for his own ends. More than that, Satan is actually the real God whom most people on earth worship, whether they know it or not. That behind so much religion, behind so much activity, Satan is the one who's being worshipped. He's the person. And even by some who go to church and chapel on Sunday, in reality, he's their God. For they worship the things that he offers them. They want the things of the world that he belongs to and rules over, rather than setting their mind on the things that are above where Jesus is. And if you want this world, and if you want the things of this world, then I give you a piece of advice. Make Satan your God. If you want this world, he's a wonderful God to have because he'll give it to you. There's always a price to pay. When the bill comes in, you may not be quite so happy, but he'll give it to you. He can give you money, he can give you fame, he can give you anything you want, because it's his to give. Where have you been, Satan, says God in the book of Job? Well, I've been patrolling the earth, I've been looking around my estate. And he had. Now let's get this clear. That doesn't mean that God is helpless in this world. It does mean, and we've got to think this through, that God is allowing Satan to be prince of this world and God of this world. He's allowed it. And people say, what does God think he's doing allowing that? Well, I would just say my only answer to that one is, what's he doing allowing you to be like you are? Why should you blame him for allowing Satan to rebel when he allowed you to? The answer is very simple. He's a father and he will not force any of his creatures to go his way. And he gives you freedom to rebel. And we can't grumble about him giving the angels freedom, though they have superior intelligence and strength, because he gave us the same freedom and we've used it in the wrong way.